Hello, what's up everyone? It is I'm the one and only Maxi here, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and it looks like Tails is chilling out while Sonic is being so impatient saying that, come on Tails, let's get a move on. And thankfully we did manage to move at least. So either way though, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Sonic Advance 3 for the Game Boy Advance. So last time we have managed to able to accomplish the second zone, which appears to be Sunset Hill Zone. That was actually a pretty good zone, despite there's some bottomless pits every once in a while. But either way though, at least I did manage to die just once though. So yeah, today for this episode, sorry for a little bit of attentions right there, is that we're going to be hit on to the third zone in this game, known as Ocean Base. And for this, let's go ahead and select Knuckles and Sonic, the fighting buddies, who apparently Sonic's not too thrilled about it. And let's go ahead and just try to able to climb up. Oh. So yeah, that's the only negative things about doing some team-ups, because depending on which team you want to be, sometimes they just get, like, nerfed really badly. Like, as you can tell, that Knuckles, alongside with Sonic, that he can't glide, because all he does is just basically, he just does this really pointless headbutting technique. And as a result, that you can't climb onto walls, and you can't glide as well. But thankfully, since as you can see, I switched over to Knuckles as the leader player, and Tails as my partner companion, so that means that, thankfully, this combination is actually a lot better than Knuckles with Sonic. So because of this though, I think I should probably stick with this for now on. So either way though, well, to be more specifically, whenever we try to able to go into Act 1 and Act 2 in Ocean Base, so, but either way though, that's as far as I can usually imagine. So anyways, here's the Ocean Base zone, in this case the third zone in this game, and basically, it's the fact that it takes place in some sort of like a aquarium base kind of feel to it, which does reminds me of one of those levels from the likes of Sonic 06 called Aquatic Base, except the fact that this is a 2D game, not a 3D game. So yeah, that's something worth noting for the sake of this reference. So even though that was before that, actually. So either way though, it is kind of cool to able to actually see the Dr. Eggman made the actual, the aquatic-looking, base environment. So, at least in this case, that's, it's very interesting to say the least. But, on the other hand, though, this is probably one of my least favorite zones in the game. I mean, it's not as it's not as hard as the later zones throughout the game, but we'll talk more about that whenever we get on to Act 2. So, because of that, though, there's a good thing we're actually going to be selecting Knuckles, because he will be the only one who can able to actually get into this section, because since we're going to be still able to try to find some plentiful of Chows, basically it's the fact that we still need to able to actually find these Chows as soon as we were able to actually just try to able to take on the third special stage. So, but, you know, you get the idea of how this is going. So because of that though, yeah, I'm presuming that we have to keep on doing that a lot. So yeah, today's day is of course the 13th of April today, in this case in 2021, and it looks like we only got about 17 more days to go until new Pokemon Snap for the Nintendo Switch will be releasing by that time. So at least I'm pretty excited about that still. So either way though, there's not much else to tell for this point. So and by the way, there are some certain walls that you can't easily break them if you manage to jump on them. Whilst other times though, you're gonna have to able to utilize the action button while you're simply trying to able to break certain walls. And in addition to that, you also have to be on the power type. So because of that, as you can see on this little icon from the top left corner, that as you can see, I've now managed to able to got myself the power type. Meaning about the fact that I can able to do something a bit more powerful as opposed to speed. So, although speed is still the thing in this, so I guess that makes it a little bit obvious for that sake of time. But either way though, that's not much else I can honestly try to talk about. So, although eventually we'll get onto the forms of the flying type, specific scenario whenever we get into the forms of the later progression of this particular Let's Play as a result. So, anyways, let's go for this little pipeline, as you can see, which almost kind of reminds me of that one level in Sonic Rush for a little bit, but in forms of Huge Crisis, where basically they're able to actually traverse for that specific battleship or something like that. You know, the one where you have to able to explore the inside the ship base and stuff like that, and some other times you can able to actually explore the outside portion of that specific zone as well. So, yeah, that begs it for the sake of time. And by the way, something worth knowing for is that when you're able to actually play as Knuckles and able to actually have Tails as your partner, is that as you can see, that basically Knuckles does some sort of like a double jump technique. And basically that you can able to actually just go up slightly, and then you can able to glide, and you can also climb on walls. So yeah, speaking of which though, is the fact that Knuckles might actually be a little bit nerfed compared to the forms of how it does in the forms of the past Sonic games for sure. Well, assuming if depending on what partners you're going to be bringing in too. So, for instance, that I've already mentioned about this before, if you manage to able to select Knuckles as the leader and then partnered up with Sonic, he's gone incredibly nerfed, which as a result that he can't glide, he can't able to actually just, well, he can't able to actually still able to jump on enemies and stuff by utilizing with the actual ball technique, but the only downside for this though is the fact that usually relatively speaking is that he can't climb onto walls or even glide, so because he does this really pointless headbutt. And while you're in the forms of the actual headbutt mode, basically if you manage to go closer to the ground, basically Knuckles were able to actually spin dash for a little bit, so even then occur into a ball for a few moments notice, which yeah, this is probably the most useless tag action in the game because it actually just gets nerfed as opposed to superior or stronger as far as I'm aware. But even then though, thankfully for the tag action for Knuckles and Tails together, basically if you're trying to use the tag action when you're on the ground, basically it kind of does the same thing for Sonic's, that basically he just allows you to able to launch upwards quite significantly, and also if you manage to able to use the tag action in the mid-air, basically Tails carries you. So because of that though, oh jeez, I'm almost gonna drown. Yeah, keep that in mind though, you still need to able to grab those air bubbles until you survive underwater, so something to keep that in mind. So, and by the way, one thing I should probably notice something is the fact that in regards to the forms of the Chao grinding when it comes to this entire zone in Ocean Base Zone, there wasn't any Chao in the hub worlds because I think that was the only zone to able to actually not have a single Chao in the actual exploration on the hub world, and because of that though, it's just all basically just all three acts specifically for the sake of the zone. Although eventually whenever we get onto the fourth zone, then basically you're still able to try to find one of those Chaos in the hub world, so at least you can able to actually expect to do that. So either way though, you can probably get the suggestion. So yeah, speaking of the ocean-based level, you know, I've already mentioned about this before since the very beginning of the Let's Play. I just do think that Sonic Advance 3 is, in my opinion, is the weakest installment of the series just because of its level design. And because of that, though, that, you know, again, I just think that Ocean Base, it has way too many spikes and way too many crushing blocks that can instantly kill you, like, really, really badly. Especially noticeable that I'm almost gonna get crushed on certain points. It also has this little sand water river thing that kind of does the same treatment as the forms of what Sound Obelisk did from the likes of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, although I'm guessing it was supposed to be oil, or I don't know, but it does have some water at least, so you can able to actually avoid drowning. So yeah, and also there's going to be a lot of obstacles that you have to dodge, and lots of enemies that you can't dodge because there's going to be plenty of times when you're able to actually launch yourself on the spring, and then, well, there's a lot of enemies you can't dodge because there is no way trying to avoid it. So I think to me though, Ocean Base is one of my least favorite zones in this game so far. I mean, it's not as hard as the later zones in the game, but it just feels kind of frustrating to able to deal with a lot of, like, some situations, mainly with the forms of cheap enemy placement, as well as crushed blocks, and, oh yeah, I forgot about the surprise attack spikes. That's always swell. But I digress. And also, there's going to be some annoying moments where basically it's the fact that sometimes it can be really, really tedious until you're able to try to reach certain places if you really desperately want to find every single Chao in this zone. And mind you, there's still 10 of them, mind you, so yeah, there's another emphasis on those stupid crushing blocks that can kill you. But I do really still like the idea about the zone, because it's actually based off of that little aquatic base made by Dr. Eggman, of course. But again, as I mentioned this before, it will eventually bring it back later, until when Sonic 06 came around by the forms of aquatic Base, which, some people might not like the zone just because of this forgettable music or something like that, but you know. And also, speaking of the music, is the fact that the Ocean Base theme wasn't exactly all that memorable either. So it's like, you get the feeling of, hey, you remember the forms of going to Green Hill Zone, right? Well, basically, that theme is actually catchy and all that stuff, though, because that was the song we all remembered. And whenever we get onto Sunset Hill, it's like, oh, cool, it's like some sort of like advanced version of the Green Hill theme. But when we get into the forms of Ocean Base, it just feels kind of unremarkable to me, though, when it comes to the actual music selection, so I totally get it because of the forms of the Game Boy's limitations or something like that when it comes to the sound quality, but still, I can't really excuse the thing about the fact that with the actual music choice, what they're going for, so, yeah, that's as far as I can say about that. And as you can see, thanks to my powerful editing skills, I managed able to actually switch between the different teams. Such as, for instance, as you can see, I managed to switch to Sonic and Knuckles, not to be confused as Sonic and Knuckles game on the Mega Drive. So yeah, when you team up with, while Sonic is team up with Knuckles, basically when Sonic managed to able to think he was trying to perform a somersault, basically he does this little somersault thing right there, which I'm not exactly sure how do I describe this. And also, when you try to perform a tag action while you were standing still, you can able to actually toss Knuckles' ball into any directions. And when you were jumping in the actual tag action, basically you can actually have a fun ride, in particularly from the likes of Knuckles' gliding. And basically you can have some fun, right? However, the only disappointing thing about this is the fact that, well, you can't climb onto walls. So you can glide while you're trying to ride on Knuckles, but you can't climb on walls. So that might seems a little bit of a nerve-wracked kind of the forms of the experience when it comes to certain team combination, you know, tag actions and all that stuff though, which makes it a little bit of a, well, disadvantages sometimes, which as a result, that in some levels, most notably during the forms of towards at the very end of the game, that sometimes I highly recommend you able to go for the best combination, as long as that, well, Knuckles is not so bad to play, as long as you don't team up with Sonic, because, well, as I said this before, Knuckles has been nerfed since during the old days, so, well, as long as you weren't able to get yourselves the better partner, like, let's just say Tails, for example, because at the moment, Knuckles and Tails combination is actually really good, because thanks to the forms of the double jump for Knuckles, and also he can able to glide, and to top it off, he can climb onto walls, just like in the forms of how it does in the old days. But, if you try to able to play as Knuckles as the leader, and then partnered up with Sonic, then it just got so nerfed, and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's as far as I can say in terms of the forms of, well, let's just say in terms of, well, you know, nerfed, kind of status kind of way. So, also we still need to grab some air bubbles, so, because, usually kind of thing about it is that unlike any forms of Sonic Events 2, although to be more fair though, is the fact that, just like in Sonic Events 1, that, basically, that, you know, sometimes if you go into underwater, that you'll, might be a bit floaty every once in a while, and stupid enemy placement! Oh, jeez, so many bad enemy placements in this whole thing. Oh, jeez. But at least we grab ourselves an air bubble, at least, so we can able to actually still survive in here. But it's just that, I just don't think the level design wasn't all that good. Like, to be more specifically, that it's alright until whenever we get onto the later zone, which I found is a bit alright when it comes to level design, but in some scenarios, mainly with the forms of crushing blocks, cheap enemy placements, and even especially noticeable with bottomless pits, and even especially noticeable there's too many spikes on screen, and as a result that there's going to be a lot of death situations, and even especially noticeable with trial and error annoyances like so. In fact, yeah, let me know in the comments below for the question of the day. What do you think about the forms of Sonic Advance 3 so far? Do you like it as much as the forms of the previous two Sonic Advance games? Or are you not a big fan of it, unlike the forms of Sonic Advance 1 or 2? Although, mind you, that some people might differ about the fact that maybe Sonic Advance 2 might be a bit of a, well, some sort of like a misstep backwards in terms of the forms of like, well, let's just say their least favorite Sonic Advance game of the entire trilogy, just because of the special stage system, and also the amount of times you get have to play through 4 other characters in order to able to unlock the rest of this stuff. But either way though, I digress. And as you can see from the powerful editing I have to deal with, I actually did manage to switch back to the terrible combo team with Knuckles and Sonic. You know, with the one where he does a headbutt instead of glide. And here we go, on to the third special stage, as you can see on screen. Which, Knuckles dude looks a bit taller in this special stage, kind of thinking about it. So, I'm guessing it's probably because he was actually, like, eating too much, food or something? I have no idea, but I digress. And as you can tell, that since, as you can see from the actual, the color of the special stage, the actual Chaos Emeralds we're obviously going to go after is the yellow Chaos Emeralds. Because, again, that just like in the forms of Advance 1, that, what if you move on to the next few special stages coming up, that the actual background color actually changes depending on what zone you're in. So, for instance, on the first zone, the actual color of the emerald is red, and then the second zone's emerald color is blue. And now we're on the ocean base special stage, which the color of the emerald is going to be yellow. So, and eventually green and silver and light blue, and the last one will be purple. So, because of that, though, yeah, we can expect pretty much almost nearly at the forms of the halfway point in terms of Sonic Advance 3. Although sure, this game might be a bit longer compared to the forms of how it does it on Advance 1 and Advance 2, which to be more specifically because of the forms of the Hub World system. So but yeah, that's as far as I can usually describe about this basically. So yeah, this special stage is not too hard though, but again, it gets a bit aggressively difficult once we get into the forms of special stage 5 or 6, and even don't get me started on the 7th one, the last one I should say, because good lord, that final special stage really ticks me off though, which we'll talk more about that whenever we get to the very end of April, so... And there we go, 3 Chaos Emeralds have been collected, or the 3rd Chaos Emerald I should say, so either way though, huzzah! And now it's time to go and do the 3rd Dr. Eggman battle, and eventually, well, we'll pretty much get to end off the episode as long as we're able to actually make things a little bit easier and simple. You know, the Hub Worlds can be pretty annoying to people, because every time you want to go to the act you want to play through, like, you have to go through this stuff. I mean, you can't just exit to the levels, and then what if you want to go to? And especially if you want to backtrack to the previous world, and then if you really want to go for a hub world, and then you have to go for this little giant ring hub thing, and it's just a lot of busy work and all that stuff though. I get it, you can able to actually take it on the go, even though some people might find this a bit of a nuisance to able to go for the forms of the hub world and stuff like that, which I kind of wish that the hub world in this game wasn't there, because I like to be able to actually go back into Sonic Advance 1 and 2 style of level select. But this is too much of a busy work, you know. But anywho, here we have the next boss fight right here, and this boss is named Eggfoot. And this boss is actually pretty easy, even though it's kind of similar to Egg Frog as far as the actual boss fight type as far as I'm concerned, since Sonic Advance 2. But basically all you have to do is just once again you have to able to damage his glass dome, and once you've done it 8 times, then he's done. Probably the most easiest boss fight in the game, as long as you need to be very careful with that attack as you saw for about a few seconds ago. But when you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Yeah, we already know, Eggman, you already said this before, but either way though. And that's it, that was it for Ocean Base Zone. Again, not one of my favorite zones in the game, but it's just that the music is not that very memorable with that zone, but that's just me. Alright, since we've now managed to finish the 3rd zone, as I said before, and now we move on to the 4th zone, which appears to be, well, wait for it, as soon as this little cinematic stuff is finished, Toy Kingdom. And this does remind me of that one of those levels in Mega Man 8, which I'll talk more about that until on Thursday. So I guess we'll have things up here. So join me next time on Let's Play Sonic Advance 3. Instead, we'll hit on to the forms of the Toy Kingdom. So I'll see you guys until, as I said, on Thursday. So I'll see you then. Later, fellas.